What's up, Porch Nation? Welcome back to Porch Nation headquarters here in Kickin', Worcester, Massachusetts. Kickin'! It was week 7 here in the Greatest League, and it's good! For the third time this season, we had North versus East and South versus West, and talk about disparate times. The chasms between scores may have never been so vast. Of course, I knew blowout after blowout victory would get boring, so with the help of Josh Steinberg, we tried to give you something worth following. Anyway, let's boot this week through the uprights.
Can I kick it? Yes, you can. Can I kick it? Yes, you can.
It's the final week of the first half of regular season play. Week 7, 8 games. Let's get into it.
Yo, VIP. Let's kick it.
All right, folks, week 7 is here, and it came with one of our most lopsided weeks that I can ever recall. The average point differential was 45.23 points. There were only 2 games where both teams broke 100 points. We also had 2 games where neither team broke 100 points. We saw an unprecedented 4 games, aka half of them, be decided by more than 50 points, hence the 45.23 average. And 2 games had near a 100-point differential. Well, let's get in it, and we'll start with our largest margin and work our way down to the smallest in a segment we'll call Grading on the Curve. So in most cases, grading on a curve is about averages, or about boosting up an underperforming group of pupils, nudge, nudge. And, most importantly, grading on the curve makes the people in the middle of the average sorta the most important and the least relevant at the same time, in that every other grade is now made to be more similar to that average, therefore making the average less unique. Time for more fun with word math, grading on the curve. Simple formula this time. If the score differential is higher than the average is subtracted from the score. If the score is lower than the average, then the average is subtracted by the score, then rounded to the nearest whole number this time. Starting off, we have Pete versus James Berger II, a difference in score of 95.1 points. Subtracted by 45.23 gets us 49.87, or 50 words after it's rounded up. Okay, here we go. Talk about polar opposite performances as highlighted by the point differential. Though not the widest margin we've seen in a game, it's up there. Pete put up this week's highest score, and Berg slips in the North Division comeback tour. There's one done. Next we have Dylan versus D. That's a differential of 92.25, so it's 47 words, and go. D&D, let's roll the 12-sided die and spin a bard's tale. A quarterback, kicker, and Colts defense enter a tavern. A bard with a magical phalanx approaches. Matt Stafford poops himself, and the Jets are the Jets. Dylan gets win 3 in a row. That's 2 done. Okay, Adam and Ethan came down to a difference of 70.6 points, which calculates to 25 words. And go. A wonder to behold. See what can happen, what might be, when the gun fires and the blocks open, when you actually set your roster. 3 down, next one. Alex and Andy landed closest to our average differential this week. Their game was decided by a whopping 50.49 points, which means their word count is 5. That's right, the middle gets cheated the most. Challenge accepted, and go. Win long and lose tall. It's a reference to streaks. Joe and Jeff came down to 27.05 points, making them our second closest to average. And if we're talking school grade-wise, the biggest benefactor to a grading curve. They get pulled from well below average to near average by this method. In our terms, it earns them 18 words, plus all of these words that I said to set this up. There's your benefit. And go. A battle of the beards. Jeff has now lost 3, and Joe has won 4 in a row. Steve and Josh Marshall came down to 12.4 points, earning them 33 words and go. These two teams were racing to the bottom, though Josh Marshall would be bested there by one other team. Steve sneaks this week's 5th lowest score by, and Josh's win streak ends here. Skinner and Ross had the second closest differential this week at 9.45 points, so they get 36 words and go. Skinsy wins this one on the backs of his kicker, Denver's D, and Roquan Smith. Kudos! Ross's small numbers were smaller than Matt's. His running backs, Gino and Tuck, were enough to overcome the difference here. And now, our game of the week. Josh Steinberg and I came into this one expecting a lopsided victory for Josh Steinberg, but it ended up coming down to 4.55 points. 41 words, starting now. Josh was predicted big, but that came from behind twice. But oh so nice, Josh Steinberg gets dickered by the kicker Dicker, and I ride the back of an overperforming kicker to a victory for the second time this season. All right, there we have it, week 7, halfway through our regular season already. Can you believe it? That means our biggest games are on the horizon, and next week is no exception. In week 8, we finish our first pass at each of our divisional opponents, and we'll finish our second half of the divisional games in our 3-part season finale, weeks 12 through 14. Early projections, and factoring in Thursday's games, already show that we're in for a much more competitive week this week. And I can't wait to see those scores tighten up. So until next time, keep thriving, Porch Nation!
Cortez delivers. Freeman hits the ball.